Look at this, Atmo said. The others huddled around the display. Sure enough, the words, "Mercury Alert!" shone out in all caps with the image of a rapidly shifting plume below. There was a collective gasp. Whoa, that does look bad, Hydro said, but what on earth is it? Switching to a geosphere view, Geo scanned the surrounding landforms, muttering softly, nowhere near a volcano, but how else would so much get airborne? Geo, we don't have much time, Hydro growled. Whatever you know about this thing, spill it, quick. Geo shrugged. It's a metal found normally in rock about as commonly as silver, with some unique properties. It's usually a liquid at room temperature, expands and contracts noticeably when its temperature changes. Which is why it's been used so often as a thermometer, Bio added, except people stopped doing that as much because... Bio hesitated. It's toxic, particularly the vapor form. So what are we dealing with here, liquid or gas? Hydro pressed, and like Geo said, how did it get into atmosphere? Bio took the controls nervously. Oh no, I was afraid of this. It's the humans. They're burning tons of coal from deep in the earth and releasing the mercury into the air. Atmo shuddered. How could they do such a thing? Burning coal releases energy, Bio explained ruefully. Whatever happened to wind power? Complained Atmo. Better question, cut in Hydro. What are we going to do now? Mercury is way denser than other gases and liquids and solids in the atmosphere, Geo noted, panning over the plume image again. It won't be able to float up there for long. I've got all kinds of air currents around there though, Geo. This crisis is going to spread unless we do something fast. I'm probably going to regret suggesting this, Hydro said, but if we got more water vapor up there, we might be able to rain the mercury down, right? Yeah, but are you sure? You were just... Hydro ground their teeth. Geo, can we turn the heat up underground? That should get a good breeze going over the lake. I'm on it, Geo said. Bio, let's get some serious transpiration working. You don't have to tell me twice. Atmo, make that updraft. Pick up as many dust and water particles as it can hold. Got it. It's working! It's working! Atmo shouted. Humidity is rising. Vapor molecules are starting to stick together with the dust and mercury particles. Before it could see a tall, dark cloud beginning to take shape. It's condensing! Come on, precipitate! Just then, a brilliant flash of lightning tore through the air. Drops of rain began to fall. You did it, Hydro! Atmo said. Well, we contained the problem somewhat, and we got it out of your sphere, Hydro said. But now there's mercury in the water. I'll try to absorb as much as I can, Geo said. I can fracture the bedrock a little more to increase the flow. Great thinking, Geo, Atmo said. Let the contaminated rain infiltrate the groundwater and put the mercury back where it came from. Wait, Geo, there are several wells right over there. Bio pointed out the locations on the display. The groundwater is flowing right towards them. And I suppose that could make humans sick. One of these days, they're going to have to face the consequences of their actions, Hydro grumbled. I'll temporarily boost the elevations around the wells, Geo offered. But that means the contaminated water is headed for the lake instead, Hydro protested. You really can't please everyone, can you? Geo said. Sorry, Hydro. People are our priority, remember? But there's lots of thick, mucky sediment around the edge of the lake. I could try to get the mercury trapped in there. Please, Hydro said, peering over Geo's shoulder at the display. All right, you can stop holding your breath now, Hydro, Geo said. We should be good. The mud is hardly permeable. All the mercury is trapped in tiny pores in the sediment now. Hydro looked slightly less worried. Way to go, team, cheered Atmo. Oh great, said Bio. What is it now? Hydro groaned. There are microbes in the clay. You've got to be kidding me, Bio. There are living things everywhere. What are we supposed to do? Destroy the mercury? Throw it away? You know that's impossible. Sorry, Bio. Hydro's right on this one, Geo said. This mercury has been on Earth since there was an Earth. All we can do now is move it around, and this seems as good a place as any. No, you don't get it, Bio said. The microbes are fine. More than fine. They're performing chemical reactions on the mercury, combining it with carbon and hydrogen to make a new substance. Methyl mercury. And that's bad because, Atmo prompted. They're making it more toxic, Bio exclaimed. Methylmercury damages the nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord. Mercury, methylmercury, it's still stuck in the mud, Geo interrupted. Worms and other invertebrates dig in the clay. If they swallow some of the methylmercury along with the dirt they eat, the worms will die, Hydro cut in. Big deal, I'm sorry, but how many worms are in the biosphere again? Bio sighed. Can I finish? No, the worms probably won't die. Instead, they'll carry this poison as part of their bodies. So you're trying to say that the methylmercury doesn't get eliminated with the rest of the water and food waste, Geo said. Exactly. Something else will eat the worms. Maybe a fish. The longer it lives and the more invertebrates it eats, the more poison will collect in its system. Hydro was getting the idea. Then it gets eaten by another fish, which is eventually eaten by another fish, the poison levels building up all the time, and then maybe eventually a human eats it and is poisoned. Exactly, said Bio. It's called bioaccumulation, and it affects animals at the top of the food chain the most. Atmo said, you mentioned that mercury reacted with hydrogen and carbon to make this stuff. Is there a way to change it back? Actually, Sol might be able to help, Geo said. I have here that prolonged exposure to intense sunlight can turn methylmercury back into mercury. Good thinking, Atmo acknowledged, but if there's so much sunlight, what's stopping some of the mercury from evaporating and going back into the atmosphere? Geo grimaced. Okay, another idea. Here's some more research demonstrating that methylmercury and mercury both react in an interesting way with metal-based salts. They stick together in big lumps. So your prediction would be adding metal-based salts to the lake will allow the mercury to be separated from the water, suggested Bio. I assume you could find some of these metal-based salts somewhere, Geo? Yes, although more of it is produced by people in factories. You know people are notoriously difficult to work with. I'd rather stick with your idea if that's all right. How will we actually separate the lumps from the water, though? Hydro laughed. Hey, Atmo, remember how I was getting after you for vaporizing mud puddles? It feels so long ago. Exactly why are we rehashing this? Would you please remind us what happens when a puddle evaporates? The water turns from a liquid to a gas and rises, leaving everything that's not water behind, Atmo said with a grin. I see where this is going. But we're going to need to separate this puddle from the lake somehow, Geo said. Now it's Bio's turn to smile. I know these beavers. Okay, said Geo. So Bio will get a dam built around the contaminated mud. I'll add metal-based salts. Hydro and Atmo will work together to stir it all together. Hopefully the mercury will form clumps with the salt. Then Atmo and Sol will get the water evaporated away from our little pond, cleaning it and leaving behind the clumps. And then what? Just brainstorming here, Bio said we could put it in a landfill. Is there no way to recycle it? Geo asked. Not safely, not yet, Bio replied. I think that's going to have to be our best bet for now then, Atmo said. Let's do this. Bio assembled an army of beavers and set them to work. Hydro and Atmo planned their act, and far away, Geo collected tiny yellow crystals from an opening in the earth as clouds of volcanic gas belched into the air all around. Is the dam ready? Geo asked on their return. It's ready. Add the metal-based salt, Bio replied. With a flourish, Geo sprinkled handfuls of yellow powder over the surface of the new pond. It worked, Bio said, relieved. Now that's over, Hydro began. Bio, Atmo, Geo, I owe you all an apology. I thought that water belonged in my sphere and I resented you all for taking some of it. But now I understand that water truly belongs in every sphere and it constantly moves between them. Sometimes it carries contamination with it, said Bio ruefully. That's true, Hydro replied, but often going through this cycle cleans it. Thanks, guys. I guess I'm the one who owes you all. Geo's eyes sparkled. Hey guys, where does Hydro's money come from? Hydro groaned. I don't know, Geo, do tell, said Atmo eagerly. From the riverbank, but to pay us, Hydro had better find other streams of revenue. Oh! How about let's just call it even, said Bio, smiling. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some thirsty plants to water.